Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, the milkmaid and her pail. One day, a farmer's daughter was walking on the path. With her, her mother, and under her arm, a huge pail of milk. Okay, so maybe she was a strong farmer's daughter. She decided to say to her mother, "Mother, with the cream from this milk, I shall make butter. And I shall sell the butter, and I shall buy a dozen eggs. And these eggs will hatch into chickens. The chickens will have more eggs, and the eggs more chickens. And I shall sell some of these fowl, and with the profits I shall buy myself a charming gown, and I shall walk into town, and the young gentleman will look at me and try to make love to me, and I shall flick my head to one side and pass them by." And as she flicked her head, she lost her grip on a pail of milk. It fell on the floor, and the milk was lost. Her mother stood there and looked at her and said, "Don't count your chickens." That was one of Aesop's fables, and it was written in the year 450 BC. So interesting then that 2,500 years later, we should still be falling foul of that phrase, if you'll pardon the pun. I'd like to tell you a few stories tonight. A few stories about people who, like the milkmaid, counted their chickens before they hatched, who took a chance on something before it actually happened. I'm going to bring these stories into the 20th century because they're actually all stories from the 90s about the National Lottery. My first story. Firstly, I'll ask you, how would you feel if you thought you'd won the National Lottery? I think you'd feel totally free and ecstatic about what you could achieve. My first story. National Lottery draw number 9, the year 1994. The stars of the story, a taxi firm with a syndicate in Rotherham. They learned, having watched the lottery programme on a Saturday night, that they had matched all 6 numbers. Their first reaction, "Woohoo! We're rich! Let's get drunk!" Now, being a one-time resident of Rotherham as I am, I can tell you that that would be a natural reaction from a Rotherham taxi driver. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. They dumped their cars on the busiest night of the week, and they went out and they painted the town red. They went to expensive bars, expensive restaurants, expensive strip clubs, the really expensive ones, apparently. And they spent money like it grew on trees. Unfortunately, draw number 9 was no ordinary draw, because that night 133 people won the jackpot, which meant that the jackpot prize was only £100,000. So our Rotherham taxi syndicate had just been out into downtown Rotherham, having won £2,000 each, and spent most of it. How would you feel? Devastated. My second story for tonight, National Lottery draw number 102, the year 1996. The stars of the story, a businessman and his work colleagues. One day, the work colleagues had discovered the businessman's wallet unattended, and in it they found his lottery ticket for the weekend. As the company had a company meal that Saturday night, they thought they'd play a practical joke on him. Oh. So sure enough, halfway through the meal, a voice comes over the tannoy to announce the 6 winning numbers. But these aren't 6 winning numbers. Oh no, these are the 6 numbers on the businessman's ticket. The businessman took his wallet out of his pocket, checked his ticket, his facial expression changing when he realised what had happened. He put his wallet away again. His colleagues waiting for a reaction. He stood up and he said, "Hey everyone, I'd just like to tell you that I hate you. I hate you. I just won the lottery and I'm rich and I quit. Goodbye." And with that he stormed out of the restaurant. Suffice it to say that the businessman's colleagues were somewhat accepting of his rather unusual resignation request. My third story this evening, National Lottery draw number 176, the year 1997. The stars of the story, me and my big sister. Big sister. I'd actually put the same numbers, the same 3 sets of numbers on the lottery for a good 3 or 4 months before this date. And I'd never even won a tenner from them. These numbers were useless. So it was to my absolute astonishment, when watching the TV programme that night, I should match 5 of the numbers on my ticket. My big sister's reaction, "You're going to be rich! You're going to be able to buy cars and houses and go on holidays, and you're going to be able to treat your family to cars and houses and holidays. and she set about telling her friends how she was now a member of a rich family. An hour passed, during which time I was furiously pressing the buttons on the remote control, trying to figure out what my prize would be. And there it was. 5 numbers, £2,756. Now that's not a bad amount of money, but for 5 numbers on the lottery, you'd have expected a bit more. As did my sister. Suffice it to say, she was somewhat withdrawn after that piece of news. So those are my 3 stories. I'd like to give you the moral of the story, which I think you already know. To the Rotherham taxi syndicate, to the businessman, to my big sister. And to you, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, don't count your chickens before they hatch. And just to finish my speech, I'd now like to juggle. Whoa.